Greetings to one and all. So for this video, I'm going to talk about topics under chapter 3, local and global communication in multicultural settings under purposive communication. So I will be tackling 4 lessons in this one video. We have the global community, cultural awareness and sensitivity, gender sensitivity, and political correctness. So, what do the literatures say about the global community? So, more than 50 years ago, McLuhan anticipated the arrival of a global village where everyone on this planet Earth could feel himself to be a citizen of a village. So, take note of this phrase, global village. McLuhan's vision was inspired by the tremendous development of radio and television broadcasting. So the development of global satellite transmission and broadcasting in some ways realized the dream of McLuhan. So what is really the dream of McLuhan? It's more on the technological development. So technological development kept on accelerating, especially during the last 25 years. We already have the satellite, radio and cables, okay? And we could reach any part of the world through a telephone. So, if one has a computer as well and the modem, he can access information stored in any computer around the globe. So the experts and the leaders of the world are talking about superhighways of information. Okay? And this one creates the totally new world, okay? Not a global village, but a global intelligent community, a global brain, according to Parapa. So, what is this superhighway of information? Okay, this is a global network of intelligence, okay, that allows us now to globally share information, communicate instantly, and work together to develop robust and sustainable economic progress. Okay, so global high-tech communications facilities also help to work together as nations, exchange ideas, and nurture friendships which transcend the barriers of nations, mountains, and seas. Okay, so this topic really entails global high-tech communication. So most of our major offices and some homes are linked with optical fiber systems, giving us access to global multimedia services, visual, intelligent, and personal services. Okay, that includes the benefit of having the internet. So these facilities give an almost unlimited choice of information and entertainment to those who have access. So, yes, through communications, the global world is now filled with information and entertainment that potentially have an impact on our value systems, religious beliefs, business activities, taste in and choice of entertainment. So that's the global community. It's called global community because of how globalization contributed to a community with superhighways of information or global network of intelligence. Next is the cultural awareness and sensitivity. What do you mean by cultural awareness? Cultural awareness is knowing that there are multiple different cultures, okay? Based on religion, ethnicity, nationality, and other factors that have different attitudes and outlooks. So when we say cultural awareness, we're not just going to tell about the difference on how a group of people dress, how a group of people speaks, okay? So we could have other factors such as religion, nationality, and others. On the other hand, cultural sensitivity involves accepting those differences. So now, because you are aware of having multiple culture, you are now sensitive, okay, that you accept those differences without insisting your own culture, which is really better, that everyone should do it their way, all right? So, as opposed to our past lessons in which we have this stereotyping and prejudice, okay, this is the opposite to that one. Cultural awareness and sensitivity. So, cultural sensitivity skills are sometimes called cultural competence. So, when you get to respect different cultures, you have this competence. Cultural competence. It is the ability to work alongside people with different cultural attitudes and behaviors and to do so effectively. So, like for example, you're born again Christian, and then there's a task being assigned by your teacher, and you need to work on with your classmate having different culture or religion, and yet you build a harmonious relationship, then you have this cultural competence because you could get along. You are open to one another and you respect your differences. Cultural sensitivity is being aware that cultural differences and similarities between people exist without assigning them a value, positive or negative, better or worse, right or wrong. Okay? So it's not saying that you are right with something and they are wrong with something, because you get to respect the cultures of one another. It simply means that you are aware that people are not all the same, and that you recognize that your culture is no better than any other culture. Okay, I might as well just give the example of having a different religion. So if you have this cultural sensitivity, you are not going to say that what they're doing is wrong and what you are doing is right. So you become respectful of their ways. Okay, so of course, this is often easier said than done. Okay, you or we observe this one. We get to notice this kind of issue in our society. With increasingly diverse populations living together in the same communities, it is not always possible to intimately understand the backgrounds of those we are interacting with, but having cultural sensitivity does not mean that you must be an expert in each culture's or values. It doesn't mean that you need to know really their practices, their beliefs, their traditions, because when we say cultural sensitivity, even if you don't know them at all, you get to respect them. Okay, so it simply means that you're willing to ask honest questions, seek understanding, and demonstrate empathy rather than judging those around you. It also means that when you knowingly enter a space in which there will be cultural differences at play, you do a bit of homework beforehand and avoid knee-jerk reactions or jumping to conclusions. So when we have cultural sensitivity, like for example, you get to travel to another country, before going to that place, you spend time and effort searching and discovering what would be the practices in which they think are not right on their point of view. So, of course, you begin to avoid them when you are on their place. Okay? Sherman, 2018, observes that communicating in a diverse, multicultural environment can be awkward. For example, Someone might make a sweeping and inappropriate generalization to a coworker about what his people are like, causing discord. Some subtle problems can involve the differences in how people from different cultures communicate. So, for this one, a gesture that is acceptable in one culture might be meaningless or offensive in another. What is considered the normal space between two people standing and talking is different in different societies. Just like our example in other video lessons. Filipinos are not really mindful when it comes to their personal space, but Western people do. Like Americans, as you have listened to my other video lessons, Americans do value their personal space in which the personal space is with a distance of 30 inches or 1 arm length. So in some cultures, criticizing or correcting your boss openly is much less acceptable than it is in the United States. So we have ways to help you exhibit cultural awareness and sensitivity in words and in deeds. Okay. I'm just going to put this one on the comment section. Please read them. Okay. But I am going to go through them too. Alright, so let's begin. View human difference as positive and a cause for celebration. So, when we get to see situations and things which are different with other people, we get to celebrate that they experience these things different from me, and if ever that I would be having or establishing a connection with them, I get to learn more. Another, have a clear sense of your own ethnic, cultural, and racial identity. Of course, we cannot say that someone's culture is different from us if we ourselves cannot tell what is our own ethnic culture and racial identity. So we must know. Number 3, be aware that in order to learn about others, you need to understand and be prepared to share your own culture. Because that's how we're going to have the mutual benefits. If someone is going to share their culture, learn from them, okay? We must as well share it to others what our cultures are, and they could benefit from this as well. Number 4, be aware of your own discomfort when you encounter differences in race, color, religion, sexual orientation, language, and ethnicity. Because there are those times that we might not be comfortable speaking to other people who have different races and cultures, okay? So we must anticipate that fact. Number 5, be aware of the assumptions that you hold about people of cultures different from your own. We have what we call cultural awareness, in which we become aware that there are multiple cultural differences. And so we must not assume really that people share the same culture and traditions and others. Number 6, be aware of your stereotypes as they arise and develop personal strategies for reducing the harm that they cause. Actually, we must not just be aware, but sometimes you cannot really avoid, But if possible, we must refrain from having these stereotypes because our way of thinking affects how we treat other people. If we're going to treat other people the same way as how we treat ourselves, then they could gain the respect and they will be respecting us as well. Number 7, be aware of how your cultural perspective influences your judgments about what appropriate, normal, or superior behaviors, values, and communication styles are. As we have said and discussed, there is no culture which is right, which is wrong, especially to religion. Okay, we just have different beliefs, okay, and the like. Number 8, accept that in cross-cultural situations there can be uncertainty, and that uncertainty can make you anxious. It can also mean that you do not respond quickly and take the time needed to get more information. So, it's good if you're going to be dealing with other cultures, you must spend time and effort researching on what is what to them, and then on their whys and their hows. Number 9, take any opportunity to put yourself in places where you can learn about differences and create relationships. Because of course, if you widen your network and then you get to accept other cultural differences, then there would be establishments of more friends, and that you could go to different places, literally, okay, or of course with this implied meaning that you could do other accomplishments because you get to know people. Number 10, understand that you will likely be perceived as a person with power and racial privilege, or the opposite, and that you may not be seen as unbiased or as an ally. So it's really good if when we get to experience different cultures, we have our power to be understood, okay, because we firstly understand them. Okay, so that is cultural awareness and sensitivity. We now go to gender sensitivity. So what is gender sensitivity? Gender sensitivity refers to the aim of understanding and taking account of the societal and cultural factors involved in gender-based exclusion and discrimination in the most diverse spheres of public and private life. It focuses mainly on instances of structural disadvantage in the positions and roles of women. So how are we going to have this gender sensitivity? We have the what we call gender sensitive language. Okay, this is the realization of gender equality in written and spoken language. Gender equality in language is attained when women and men and those who do not conform to the binary gender system are made visible and addressed in language as persons of equal value, dignity, integrity, and respect. So how are we going to do that? Avoiding sex and gender-based discrimination starts with language. So as the systematic use of gender-biased terminology influences attitudes and expectations and could, in the mind of the reader or listener, relegate women to the background or help perpetuate a stereotyped view of women's and men's roles. So there are a number of strategies that can be used to express gender relationships with accuracy, such as avoiding, to the greatest possible extent, the use of language that refers explicitly or implicitly to only one gender. Like for example, you want to talk about someone, you don't know the gender. You must not just put there, especially if this is a writing output. You are not going to put he. We must always acknowledge the other gender. So if you're going to write that down, it would be he or she. Okay? So, we must ensure through inclusionary alternatives and according to each language characteristics, the use of gender sensitive and inclusive language. Just like for example, okay, so instead of saying man-made, okay, because that phrase focused on men, we're going to say artificial, manufactured, okay. Instead of saying common man, we're going to say ordinary person. Instead of chairman, chairperson, okay. Those kinds of things. Aside from that, we also have, um, instead of saying manpower, because that focuses on men, we're going to say human resources. Okay? Instead of saying mankind, because that's how we commonly address everyone, we're going to say human beings, people. Okay? Instead of policeman, we're going to say police officer. All right? So those kinds of things. That's being gender sensitive. Okay? So we also have what we call attributes here under gender sensitivity. Attributes means usage of certain words which underline stereotypic gendered attributes. For instance, women are caretakers, gentle and emotional, while men are achievers, strong and logical. That's supposed not to be accepted because, there are many women who are achievers, many women who are strong. So, we must not give this stereotype. That's gender stereotyping. Okay? So gender sensitive language is not simply terminology and rules which should be carried by a gender sensitive speaker or writer. Yes, we've been saying that when we say something, when we write something, we must be gender sensitive, but it's not just with that one. It goes beyond that. So it shows that a person respects all persons, favors social equality and equal opportunity, and helps avoid ambiguity. So communicating effectively requires respectful treatment of people and regard for their needs and individuality. Proper communication brings proper achievements. Communication can be oral or written, but written one is the most important as it is not just a set of words but reflection of your reasoning, attitudes, and knowledge. And sometimes this could be passed on to one another and they could see your point of view. They could see your perspective and they could see if you are gender sensitive. So it cannot be erased easily, and impression it gives to readers can damage or advance your reputation. So we must attend to this gender sensitivity in writing. All right. Okay, so that is all under gender sensitivity. Next, we go to political awareness or correctness. Okay, so what is political correctness? The term political correctness is used to describe language, policies, or measures that are intended to avoid offense or disadvantage to members of particular groups in society. So a while ago, we've been mentioning cultural differences and gender sensitivity. Now we go to the political aspect. So since the late 1980s, the term has come to refer to avoiding language or behavior that can be seen as excluding, marginalizing, or insulting groups of people considered disadvantaged or discriminated against, especially groups defined by sex or race. So when we talk about political correctness, we get to be led by the term marginalized. So when we say that the group of people is being marginalized, like they are treated lowly, okay? So it's like they are not of the same level with ordinary people. So Merriam-Webster defines politically correct as agreeing with the idea that people should be careful to not use language or behave in a way that could offend a particular group of people. So just like in gender sensitivity, we must be sensitive when it comes to addressing or communicating someone with this gender sensitivity issues. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, we must be aware of their status in life. Okay, so political correctness is nothing more than treating others with respect in any situation, in any aspect. Okay, so some words that may be used for political correctness, or like for example, okay, instead of cheating, okay, you know, when you say that you're cheating, it's like yes, it's something that there will be penalties, okay, but it could be that we're going to use academic dishonesty, okay, instead of saying ugly, okay, we could say aesthetically challenged. Okay, be careful with how we're going to use negro too, okay, we could just say black, okay. So instead of bald, you know, when it comes to head, we could say comb free. Okay. Instead of disabled, we could say differently abled. So they could do something. They're not disabled, they could do something differently. Okay. Instead of drug addict, drug dependent. Instead of broken home, dysfunctional family. Instead of poor, economically marginalized. Instead of old, elderly or senior. You know, sometimes this might not be offensive to other people, but you might not know. So it is best that you're going to practice using these different terms, okay, whenever you need in terms of conversation. So instead of deaf, say hearing impaired. Instead of squatters, informal settlers. No? Instead of homeless, outdoor urban dwellers. Instead of rape victim, let's turn it the other way around, rape survivor. Okay? So, yes, sometimes if we get to give a lesson to those people who are not, you know, really good, they did bad things. We have our emotions, and if they have crossed the line, sometimes we give this different expressions. But we must be mindful of being respectful at all times. Okay, but of course, it really depends upon the situation. So that's political correctness. And those are all under local and global communication in multicultural settings under purposive communication. So I hope that you learned a lot from this video. Thank you so much and have a nice day ahead. Bye.